And no matter what your age, I think everybody loves that music as you kind of get in the mood here for our afternoon edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard. And right now, let's get into the show. And here's your host, Kerry Fink, the Executive Director.
Thank you, John Harper. Well, it's another beautiful Wednesday lunchtime. We are here broadcasting from WEJF 90.3 FM. And for those listening online at WEJF.net, welcome to the broadcast. On behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, and our education specialist, Kim Bernard, who is in the studio today. How are you, Kim?
Doing great, Kerry. How are you?
Good. Boy, we have so many neat things that we're going to cover today. So if you got some friends nearby the radio, call them over, call them on the phone, but get them into the broadcast because we're going to talk about a program that our founder and president has really had us focus in on because it's the right thing for the right time. And the program's called Stay Connected. And, you know, for those of us that are now hopefully on all the backside of the most of this COVID stuff, you know, we've had our vaccinations, we've figured out how to stay safe and do all of those kind of things. But one of the challenges that we've discovered along the way, because it came out pretty quickly in the whole COVID process, that once everybody got a grip on what it was, they were able to keep seniors safe. That was no longer the problem, but everything got shut down in such a way that the problem was, well, you might be safe medically, but are you safe mentally? Because now you're isolated, you're on your own, and is anybody even checking on you? Your kids maybe can't check on you the way they would want to. Somebody's in quarantine. You know, all the things that we lived through for folks in assisted livings, it became nobody can come in or go out unless it was necessary staff. And just think about all the progress that, thank God, we've made over these months. But the challenge of isolation was tough for seniors before. And that just ratcheted it up to a whole nother level. And Kim, we're going to introduce our guests here in the studio in a moment, but you know, you were right there on the front line through all of it, taking calls. And I remember just as we would check in almost day to day on what was going on, you were getting some real amazing calls because it surprised me. The things that, you know, people would say, well, we all remember the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. So we remember things like that, but the calls that surprised me that you got were seniors who were now, I said, well, I've got something in the house for me, but Fido doesn't. Mm-hmm. And they were concerned about how they were going to keep their little four-legged friends okay through this whole thing, too. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Kerry. There were people that would call in and say, my gosh, what do I do about my poor dog? I have a senior dog who needs dog food. So I went online quickly and found out the senior, the dog foods that are out there. And, of course, the pet stores, but a lot of the people were afraid to go out. Yeah. So trying to get a dog food delivery wasn't the easiest, but there are actual kitchens that would, deliver. Which is great.
I remember you really were working on, we have a resource list. It's a huge binder that Kim and Joe and everybody that's connected to Helping Seniors is always updating with the intention of trying to find the right resource, because for 10 plus years now, Helping Seniors has operated the county senior information helpline, and that line has helped thousands and thousands of seniors and their families who care for them, really by connecting them to a resolution or at least a pathway towards a resolution for whatever issue. And you get calls about everything, right?
Oh, I get calls from people that aren't even in Brevard County.
Yeah,
I got a call from Nevada, Las Vegas one time. The guy said he didn't know where he was calling, and I said, "Well, what are your needs? What seems to be happening?" He actually needed a bankruptcy attorney for low cost.
Right, and you get calls about medical, transportation, legal, financial, housing. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And so, as we were talking about initiatives that Helping Seniors could undertake going into 2021, Joe made a point. He goes, Kerry, this is really all about helping people. We can talk about all the statistics. We can talk about how many people had COVID, went through COVID, did all that, how many got vaccinated, whatever the story is. But at the end of the day, it comes down, could we make a difference for another person? And that's what our mission is at Helping Seniors. We're a small, tiny, nonprofit organization. We need your help. We can't do what we do if you don't get involved and help us. But for 10 plus years now, this organization has been making a difference in Brevard County by doing just that, having the senior information helpline where people call in. Sometimes it's easy. Most of the time, probably it's not. And Kim, you end up almost taking the role of like a case manager because it takes many calls before you get someone to where they need to be.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because sometimes they'll call in about one thing, and before I know it, we're talking about 5 totally different subjects.
It's like they talk about, you always hear that often used expression, the tip of the iceberg. So there's one crisis that precipitates the phone call, but then you're dealing with many things that are like underlying or connected issues related to it. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So we have 2 guests in the studio that I'm really excited that you're going to get to meet and know. One is a longtime friend of helping seniors. He is a Marine. Do you have like you say like hoo-yah or something like that?
Hoorah.
Yes. Okay. So he's a veteran-owned business. He's been a friend of helping seniors for many, many years, and he has a unique, a kind of a really unique and caring background that we're going to get into. I remember his name is Troy Denault. He is the owner and operator of Soter, which is a senior living and family advocates organization. We're going to talk about what that means in a minute. But years ago, when I first met Troy, we were connected through an organization called the Golden Providers, and he was telling me, he said, Kerry, he said, you go to an assisted living home. He said, what we remember was what nursing homes or those facilities looked like when we were kids. In fact, you tell the story better than I do, Troy, so I would like for you to but it really left an impression. You said, nobody wakes up on a random Saturday and says, let's go look at assisted living,
Well, that's right.
And you said, because most of us walk around with this idea in our mind of something that we remember seeing great grandma, and it was actually kind of frightening to us as little kids.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in rural Southern Illinois, and so my grandmother, when I grew up and going through, I remember as a small child going with my mom to go visit grandma, and just walking through those hallways left an impression kind of branded in my mind of the white tile floors, the off-white walls, the long guardrail or long handrails running down the hallway. And everybody just kind of sludged over in a wheelchair, just kind of along the hallway. And I remember holding my mom's hand going down the hallway. I can see it vividly in my mind right now. And we're walking down the hallway, and there was an elderly woman, there was an elderly man, there was an elderly woman, and then there was grandma. And it just kind of always stuck with me. And just as times went on and as things continued to progress, as with many industries across the world, that as time has moved forward and there have been advancements in medicine and technology and things, well, there are advancements in senior living environments. And so it's just trying to get that communication out and trying to get the word out as to what those options are, because the truth is families are terrified of looking into this. Individuals remember that same image that's branded in my mind as a child is the same image that they see in theirs from their loved ones that they went through, and you're not putting me in one of them homes, and that's kind of the impression. And so they get caught in this message of isolation that those 4 walls become as dangerous as anything else in their world, because we're so afraid of going outside of them. But if we really take a step back and we think about what's the worst punishment that you can have in prison, well, it's solitary confinement, but we do it to ourselves. And so that's where it's just getting the message out to families and to individuals that, hey, there are opportunities and options out there that aren't what you remember, and just trying to paint that picture.
And I remember early on, and this is something now that COVID is starting to lift, we have to get back to this, because at the time when I first met Troy, I really knew nothing. I mean, literally nothing about assisted livings, and was probably a bit scared, just as Troy, just from those experiences you had going to visit great grandma, and it just left a mark. And I remember you organized a tour of, you got everybody on like shuttle buses.
That's right.
And you took us around to show us what assisted living was in the present day age. And it was a very pleasant surprise to see how far, even I remember you took us to a memory care facility, which was
Yep.
something that was completely foreign. I thought, well, okay, this is very nice. We're on a river. We're looking at all this beautiful stuff. And this looks like a nice upscale resort. This was nice. And then you took us to something I'd never heard of before, a small group assisted living home, and got a real sense for the family and how all that works together in a positive way for seniors. And then you took us to a memory care facility. And I remember thinking, well, this is going to be scary. But it was actually very, very pleasant. And I thought, see what Joe Steckler, our president and founder, has talked about since the inception of helping seniors. And even before, when he was in charge of Brevard Alzheimer's, he would talk about everybody needs to have an aging plan. Okay. So when we're kids, what are you going to be when you grow up, et cetera? When you're an adult, well, are you saving for your kids' college? How are you going to retire? What are you going to do about this? And then when we get to retirement age, do we have an aging plan? Do we know what our next steps are going to be? And when we do that, much like we do with a hurricane plan or anything like that, then we have at least planned for some of the contingencies we might see along the way. And so by removing some of the fright of all this, I guess is a way to put it, Troy Denault with Soter Senior Living and Family Associates, you're helping families understand that. But you're not always pointing people at assisted livings. If they want to stay home, you guys also help make sure that can be done safe as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we help families just kind of navigate the healthcare continuum in general. If it's just getting, again, we could go back to advanced directives. Most, I'd say 70%, I think is the last stat that I had heard from a good friend that's an elder law attorney, is that 70% of folks don't have even the simplest of advanced directives in place where you have a power of attorney. So God forbid if something were to happen, that who's going to step in when you're unconscious or under extreme medications to make those medical decisions. It's providing for information on home care and what they do and what their costs are and what the difference is between private duty home care and Medicare home care. What is covered by your insurance? And then getting into veterans programs or Medicaid, the aid and attendance programs, and just trying to navigate what finances or funding is available for when we do have care needs. Because I think we all have that understanding of a failure to plan is planning to fail. And so we've heard that old adage, but the whole point is that as we age, that's one of the things that we just kind of keep on the back burner because we don't want to admit our own mortality or that these things can happen to us, and we're just going to continue on. But where we sit, because we do work a lot with the Department of Children and Families, the Adult Protective Services Division of DCF, we do work with the emergency rooms in the area, the police departments in the area. We get thrust into a lot of crisis situations where Kim, that you're getting the phone call of a crisis. And you're having to navigate all of those pieces where you just take a step back and you go, man, I wish I had met you a month before.
Wow.
Because so many things we could have had done and in place for right now because you would have had so many more choices and so many more opportunities. But now we're very limited in the scope of what we can do because we're just scrambling and we're trying to put these pieces together. And that's where I think that a lot of the community and just the senior living industry in general is just getting the message out as to the importance of being proactive and getting in front of this because guess what? The clock ticks. The clock ticks.
Yeah.
And with that, aging is not going to stop. Time is going to pass. And so it's just very important to just take a step back, have a conversation with your loved ones, with your family, and just start putting some pieces together. And that's where we as an organization just come from an unbiased point and just kind of jumped into healthcare on the side of the family side of the fence and said, look, we don't have an agenda going left, right, or up, down. We're on your side to go, okay, where are we at? And what are we looking at moving forward? And this is the steps that I'd look at in the continuum of understanding the healthcare community and what they can do.
And as you're talking about that, I guess the main premise here is you're helping folks in the development of an aging plan, at whatever point you're being called into service. And so we're going to come back in the other part of the show. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into that topic, but I do want to get farther into this whole concept of stay connected, because I think one of the things that you're talking about, Troy Denault, is making sure that we're getting the best quality of life for the seniors, whether they're at home, whether they're in assisted living, whatever living situation that they're in. We want them to be able to do the best they can with whatever the circumstances are that they're trying to work their way through.
That's right.
So it's a quality of life issue.
Absolutely.
And so that's why when Joe said, Kerry, we really need to work on a program called Stay Connected, because like I said, early on, they figured out, well, if we do these things the right way, we'll keep seniors safe in assisted livings or at home or whatever. But the isolation quickly became the problem. And so Joe, who you can't pick up a newspaper in this county without reading an article from Joe. I mean, he's been publishing for years. You've seen him in Florida Today. You've seen him in Hometown News. He's every month in the Senior Scene magazine. He's in Aldea Today, Ebony News Today, Barefoot Tattler. I mean, all over the county, Joe is probably single-handedly the best advocate for seniors, best friend of seniors in this county as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And so he goes, we've got to do this thing about Stay Connected. And so he started writing articles to just introduce the concept. It's a program that's in development, and we need your help to develop it. And so as Joe wrote articles, Kim, who answers the Helping Seniors info line, was talking to people, and you met a very nice lady who is a retired RN who was kind enough to come into the radio studio and join us today on very short notice, I would add, because of as we were talking just before we got on the radio, she really understands this isolation issue maybe as well, if not better, than those of us in the room. Her name is JoAnne Fletcher, and I want to welcome you to the broadcast today. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. This is very interesting.
Tell us a little bit about just you. It's a fascinating, in the few moments I've known you, I know that you've been in England. You've lived in England. You've been a registered nurse. You're retired in Florida, but you want to do things to help. And that's a great place to begin. But you were talking about isolation and the trouble that means for seniors too.
Well, yes. I was married to an Englishman for 53 years. I met him at a ski club in Harper, New York, and never thought I would marry someone who was an American, but I did. And 10 days after I was married, I went and lived in England. And I camped in a Boy Scout tent for 3 months.
Wow.
And I was not a camper at the time, but I learned. What I found out right now is we moved down to Florida from Connecticut. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I moved down to near Suntree in 1994. My husband got early retirement, and we were that was sort of hard because we weren't ready for him to retire.
Right.
And then eventually we managed, and then I was doing per diem, and I had just gotten my nurse practitioner, women's health. I did volunteer at the comprehensive health care for HIV.
Wow.
And and then, well, I had a very outgoing husband too, and both of us liked to volunteer. We volunteered for the King Center. I have since volunteered for the Barrier Island Reef and Center, and I don't know, and the Red Cross. But that's the kind of people we were. We were
Sure.
people, and we like to help people.
God bless you.
So now he passed away, and it was hard to get used to not being with him, and I was going to the Shepherd Center. On Thursdays and Fridays, doing line dancing, learning how to play the ukulele, and it was really great. And then, of course, in the King Center, I was still going. I knocked on the person's door in my neighborhood and said, I don't drive at night. Will you take me? And he was very nice. He would take me. But everything I was doing, mainly to carry on with that I was missing my husband, all of a sudden stopped because of COVID.
Oh.
So luckily, I live a block from the ocean and a block from the river. I started walking. I had been swimming also at LA Fitness 3 times a week. And I know my background, keeping fit, has a lot to do with keeping well. So I started walking in the morning and then walking in the evening on the beach. And my neighborhood people have been so kind and nice. And we're all isolated. But I found, as much as I don't like the fact of this COVID situation, we're getting to know each other better.
Uh-huh.
And, it bothers me when I see people like walking around with their earphones and their cell phones. And we have the beautiful sound of the ocean, and then we have beautiful people to meet. And yet they're ignoring all of that.
Wow.
And having been a nurse, I knew that interacting with people make them get better, not just everybody keeping by themselves. I was in a nursing school, and my mother especially didn't want me to be a nurse. And I was trained by nuns. I had never been to Catholic school before. And the first thing they told us was the most intelligent person in the class would not probably be the best nurse. If you don't know how to interact with people, you're going to be out of here.
Wow.
And it just showed, because, I can tell you so many times with just that compassion that you show a patient, it's unbelievable on how it helps them get better. And certainly, like you were just talking, Troy, about how people being isolated. I've been isolated the past few months, other than the fact that I have such nice neighbors and I got myself out of the house. It makes a big difference.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I wanted to add, first of all, do you mind if we share your age? Because I am so impressed at what you accomplish. You're an example. I always admired Joe, because I go, he's 87 and he has to fight a lot of battles every day, but he keeps going and he fights on behalf of seniors for every day. And I hear that same fight, that you care about people. You're even though you're retired as an RN, you still care about people. And am I saying it right? You're 81?
Yes, I am 81.
Wow.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And so what I wanted to kind of ask you about was, because that was Joe's point. He said, look, everybody gets cooped up. Kim, a lot of the calls that you get on the senior information line are from people that are, sometimes it's not the person themselves. It's like a neighbor who now is concerned because maybe the grass is growing taller at the house, or they ran into the lady or the man that lives there, and they're concerned. It doesn't look like they're eating right or taking care of themselves. And you get calls like that all the time. And that's what Joe is talking about. If we can get into this role where we as volunteers we're just doing like a hello, how are you doing today? I'm somebody who wants to talk to you. We've heard that so many times just from people calling you, Kim. They say, wow, I didn't get this, press 1 for that, press 2 for that. I'm talking to a person who actually cares.
Oh, absolutely, Kerry. I got a phone call one time, and she said, my gosh, I can't believe I can actually talk to somebody. I'm like, seriously? Okay.
That's so important.
There's no press 1, press 2 for this, and press 3 for English or 4 for Spanish. I've got someone on the other end that I can actually talk to and have a real conversation with.
Yeah, it's so important. Now, we're going to end up having to take a mid-show break. Before we get there, though, I want to quickly share a phone number because with Soter and Troy Denault, who's one of our guests today with Senior Living and Family Advocates, you're a great service for somebody that's trying to just get a roadmap going. How do they get in touch with your office?
You can just call our office here locally in the Brevard County area. Our phone number is area code 321-419-0041. But if you'd like to toll free, we do have a toll free 800 number, and that one is 888-876-8371. And I'll just repeat them real quick. It's locally 321-419-0041, and the 800 number is 888-976-8371. And yeah, we would be glad to just help in any way that we can. Our services are of no cost. We're funded through the senior living communities in general. So to the family directly, we're here for you, and you don't have to worry about even paying us.
Yeah, and you've got a bunch of people who care in the studio, and we're going to be back with more of that on the other side of the mid-show break for Helping Seniors Radio.
You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard on this Wednesday. Let's get back to more of the show. Once again, here's Kerry Fink.
Thank you, John Harper. So we've been having a great time talking about the Stay Connected program. So on behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, who was actually the one that thought, really said, we brought it up in a conversation and we were talking about we need to expand. We're in our 10th year of offering the county senior information line, which is a free call for seniors. Well, theoretically in Space Coast, but as Kim Bernard, our education specialist who's here in the studio, has been telling us, she fields calls literally from all over. And so part of that is that as we were talking about ways that we want to expand our service as a Florida nonprofit, we thought that particularly with everything everybody been through with COVID-19, that this issue of isolation for seniors is really, really a difficult thing. And so Joe started a series of articles in some of the places that he publishes very regularly. He's a known author, always advocating for seniors. And so he did a series of articles in Hometown News and started to get some calls into the office from people saying, this resonates with me. I want to do something that might be helpful. To be honest, it's like that. You've heard this often quoted thing about the starfish on the beach where the guy runs down the beach and he sees a little kid picking up a starfish, throwing him back in the water, and he says, well, you can't save them all. Yeah, but I did for that one right there. And so, as Joe said, it really comes down to helping people one-on-one. And so our guest in the studio today, we have Troy Denault, who is it's a veteran-owned business that you've got, but you really are a person who cares. You have Soter LLC, which is Soter Senior Living and Family Advocate. So you guys help people figure out the best living options at no charge to them while they're trying to figure out, is there an assisted living? What's the right way to move on all this? And that's a service you guys have been doing. So welcome back, Troy.
Thank you very much, Kerry.
And
pleasure to be here.
And in the studio, we also have Kim Bernard, our education specialist, who takes those calls diligently and without fail on the Helping Seniors Helpline. And how are you today?
Great, Kerry. Thank you so much for having me.
And I am so glad that you invited in our new friend, JoAnne Fletcher, who's a 81 years old retired nurse, and one of the people that responded when Joe wrote that article and said, I understand the isolation. And so, JoAnne, if I can kind of pick back up almost right where we left off, you were talking during the break, sadly, you lost your husband, I think you said 3 years ago, and you were just talking about having to go through that first Christmas and that first New Year's on your own and trying to take what must be, I can't even imagine, a very, very difficult situation, but finding something good that you can do in it.
Well, I just went to church, and there were very nice people in church.
Uh-huh.
We had met this one couple on a trip, and I didn't even know they belonged to my church. It just happened that we were on a cruise through the Panama Canal. And we were the newlywed couple, supposedly, and this other couple came up after and said, we live in Melbourne Beach. And then we went to church and found them in our church. And then when my husband had just passed away, when I was going to Mass by myself, this woman, Julie, said, hi, JoAnne. I said, hi. I said, Brian just passed away. And she said, well, you sit by us every week you come, okay? And then her and her husband get very busy participating in the service. So I fainted in church one time.
Oh, no.
And I was afraid to go because they had to get up and give communion and whatnot. So I don't know if that was the real reason, but I felt good and I just fainted. So after that, this other couple with their elderly mother was in the row right ahead of me. And I said to the woman something about, I'm afraid, her name is Kate. I said, I'm afraid of fainting again. She said, you sit by me and you won't faint. Oh. Well, I tell you, every week I sit by her and I don't faint.
Isn't this really telling a story about how much we need each other?
Yes.
We don't need to do this on our own. We can't, I can tell you, and Helping Seniors, as small an organization is, we can't do this by ourselves. We need the help of everybody to get involved in this Stay Connected program. And so as a registered nurse, what you understand, what patients are going through and trying to live through as they're trying to get their health straightened out. Tell us a little bit about what you might hope that if we can do all these things the right way, that the Staying Connected program might accomplish as we talk to seniors one-on-one on the phone.
Well, I think it's the way you have to learn to listen. That's my biggest thing. I find that even when you go in the store, no one wants to listen to you. And that's the biggest thing I've learned through the many years of being a nurse, was the fact, like, we used to bathe patients, and just while you're bathing them, they're talking to you. And that's when I think that's where they start to learn to find that they're telling their problems and somebody cares.
Right.
I mean, I can't believe, I have to tell people many times, I'm the customer. Because yes, it's true, because they don't, it's entirely different. My first job was in a bakery. I was 15 years old and I was saving so I could go to nursing school. I did get a scholarship, but my parents, that's how I was the middle child of 5 children. And I got a job in the bakery, and I mean, I just enjoyed helping them, and I was there to serve the customers. And that's what I find is not very common.
JoAnne, what you're saying, and I was going to get Kim to comment on this, because we've had feedback from people who have talked to Kim on the phone, and they say what's refreshing is that they get somebody who actually listens, and then who cares? You would think that would be a common trait, but sadly, it's not out there, is it?
No, unfortunately, it's not out there, and I hear so much of it. So many times people say to me, it's so refreshing to be able to just sit and have a conversation and not be rushed off the phone.
Yeah. And, I was thinking, as Joe was saying, like, this is something that's so important. Somebody says, well, I might want to get involved in this, but I really don't, I'm not an RN. I'm not a person that has background in this. I'm not a person that really has all this understanding, but it really just is mainly a sympathetic ear, so that you're listening. And then as you hear what the situation is, it may suggest, well, this would be, we could ask Kim about this, or maybe there's a resource that's over here. And I guess too, Troy Denault from Soter, Living and Family Associates, that's probably the most important of your job, is listening to what the family is talking to you about.
Oh, absolutely. You have to sit down, and a lot of times if they're calling us, they've already exhausted a number of options. They've gone through everything, and they don't want to pick up the phone and call. And so that first touch, I communicate to all of our advocates that work with us, as well as our office, that when they call in, that give them your time. It's so important to just understand their story. It's not just about what's clinically going on with them. Understanding what's clinically wrong is, as Kerry said earlier, the tip of the iceberg. It's so many other layers of things that are going on that you just have to continue to build rapport, build trust, build an understanding that you aren't just that next phone call that's going to slough you off to the next person. It's trying to get to the root of what's really going on, what's really wrong in your situation, and how through our resources and relationships, like you, Kerry, like you, Kim, like those that we have worked with through Golden Providers and many other, just being in healthcare, many relationships and people that we've worked with over time, that we've been in the trenches with, and now we know, love, and trust.
Yep.
To be able to point them to that individual to say, hey, this person can really take care of you. And you hear them. It's not just, hey, here's a list, go get them, Tiger. It's that's not what it's about. It's about give this person a call, give that person a call, give them a chance. Now, obviously, we'll give you a couple of options so that you can kind of do some investigating yourself. But it's just at least getting to understand what is going on in their specific scenario. And it's not a cookie cutter. Every individual scenario is individualized. Dr. Visa, that is a
aging specialist,
specialist in the area, a phenomenal doctor, right? She said something in one of our seminars years ago, and she said, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia.
Wow.
And that always stuck with me because that's the case in everything that we do in healthcare.
Yes.
It's not the same. Every scenario is individualized, and we need to treat it as such and treat it with as much care and compassion as you have from the day you started. So that's kind of where, yes, absolutely. Listening is the root and the key and that's the magic dust.
And there's another aspect in all this that Joe has often talked about, and this is it's kind of an observation that comes up. You know, one of the challenges with aging is it is on-the-job training, right? You don't really know what you're going to run into many times until you run into it. And so a little bit of advanced planning and trying to figure out and I call it getting ahead of the aging curve. If you can, you know, it's tough when you feel like that wave is about to engulf you. It's just over you, and that's all you can do is like, how do I get out from under this? And you know, there's one lesson that I've learned along the way as Joe has interviewed you know, elder law attorneys, he's talked with financial planners, he's talked with all kinds of individuals along the way, and all of them, they're always speaking to the value of getting ahead of that curve by making some plans. Just like you were talking about earlier in the show, Troy, where you've had that conversation. I wish I'd met you 4 weeks before because we're still going to have to deal with whatever we're dealing with, but we would have had more options just 4 weeks before.
Absolutely.
You know, and so here's my point. Joe has been committed to this idea of everybody creating their own aging plan. And what he means by that is just like we live in Florida, they tell us, oh, it's hurricane season. We need to start making our plan. Hopefully no hurricane doesn't come near us. We're fine. But they still tell us, you know, get your batteries, get your water, get this. If it gets bad, where are you going to go? How are you going to, you know, what are you going to do? So the same idea is what is behind the idea of an aging plan. And so one of the things as helping seniors we're committing to is we're going to put together, we kind of jokingly calling it an aging plan in a kit. Because we want you to be familiar with some of the questions. You know, most of us don't even know the right questions to ask, right? Because it's the first time we've run into it. Like, Troy, how often does it happen that you don't get a call from the senior directly? You're getting a call from a concerned loved one. Like, this has just happened with mom, or you get a call from DCF, Adult Protective Services, say, well, here's what's going on. What can we do? You know?
It's you're dead on, Kerry. It's 80 to 90% of the time it's somebody else outside of the senior or outside of those that's needing the help. It's the adult child. It's the social worker at the hospital. It's DCF. It's a doctor that's calling you to say, hey, this is going on with one of my patients, and if you could just maybe reach out, or if you could go in and just, can you give me an idea of what's going on at the house? Because something has changed over the last couple of months. And so it's just being able to get in there and being able to see. So yeah, you're dead on. It is always somebody else. So, and it's good to start to plan when there is no crisis, because then your logical mind can be driving this bus.
Yeah.
Versus when the crisis strikes, you know, now your emotions are screwed to the ceiling. You've got a loved one that's out of town, that lives out of town, that's coming into this area, knows nobody here, knows nothing of the senior living environment in general across the country, and their emotions are screwed to the ceiling. It's how are you going to make the best informed decision in that scenario versus attacking it when you
can do it rationally and think like, well, this might be better, you know.
Right.
And you know, that was one of the things. You and I have a mutual friend. His name is Rob Dixon, and he's a professional guardian, and we've known him for years. He did for a while a pretty unique program. He called it Knowledge College for Aging. Yep. And Troy, he's given us permission to be able to move that whole concept forward. But if you remember, and if some of you may be aware, some of you may not be, but what Rob did with this program is he would create an event where he would bring in some I would call them experts in the field, like, you know, because what the experience you're talking about is somebody just got dropped in the deep end of the pool,
right?
And they are thrashing around and about to just go under,
yeah.
And you're trying to find any way to just at least give them a hook. So we hang on to this while we figure out what we're going to do next to get you out of that. But the whole point of Knowledge College for Aging and what Rob was trying to do with that, you know, he had people like Sheriff Ivey come in and speak. He would have like a Dr. Visa come in and speak. You would have some very important people come in who would say, these are some things you might want to think about. Let's think about this on a nice Saturday morning. We can have some fruit or something while we're having this conversation. We can do this in a relaxed, no stress, no emergency environment. And I always use the example, like anytime, if you would call a firefighter, in fact, some of the people that we're planning on talking to about staying connected, the fire chief in Satellite Beach has done a lot with this program of trying to make sure that they know where seniors are who need a little bit of extra help. And, I am sure if you sat down with any good firefighter, they're going to say, we would rather come out to your home, say, hey, you got too many extension cords plugged here. Don't leave your gasoline for your lawnmower over here. They would much rather come out and tell you these things and then have to show up at your house at 4 a.m. because now it's burning to the ground.
Right.
And so this whole thing about getting us ahead of this aging curve is so important. And there's so many things that are going to be coming that way that we're going to talk about more as we keep going along. So this is a dialogue that has to keep moving forward. So I want to encourage you, if you're listening to the radio today and this conversation is intriguing you, I want to encourage you to give Kim Bernard, our education specialist, a call. I'm going to get you to give the phone number, but we need people. So you understand, we're just putting this program together. There's a lot of different parts of it, but we welcome and we want your help in this. And just like JoAnne Fletcher was so kind to come here, give up part of her day to help explain not only her story, but her motivation for seeing the reason why this is so important. But invite folks to give you a call, Kim, and let's get them at least onto the roll as we're developing this program.
Sure, Kerry. The number is 321-473-7770.
And really, it's so important. There's a great website called helpingseniors@brevard.org. So a lot of times when people run up on a specific problem, we'll say, have a look over at the website. You can look at the Helping Seniors of Brevard YouTube page, or some people just like Facebook. Well, the videos are there as well. So you can go back and catch up on a particular topic. You could search and say, there's some great TV shows we've done together with Troy Denault, with Soter, Living and Senior Family Advocates. And we've been involved together over the years on that. There's lots of programs about paperwork and things like that. What we're going to try to do over the next few months, though, is really encapsulate that so you really get almost like a checklist, an aging plan, a kit that will help you do that. But also, at the same time, we're embarking on this stay connected, because this is so important. If you have just a couple of hours a week, and you'll be working with Kim as she sets this up, to just call in. And I think what JoAnne said was so spot on. It's about listening. You don't have to feel like you have answers. That's not the role in this. The role is that there's a human connection, which is what was missing through the whole COVID times, wouldn't you say? So.
Yeah, absolutely, Kerry. I completely agree with you. Absolutely.
So there's a couple of things. So again, the phone number to reach Kim is 321-473-7770. And again, if you were interested in some of the things that Troy was talking about, like maybe there's a loved one, maybe you're trying to figure out, well, we're in a transition phase, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, we've got to come up with a solution. I don't know where to begin. I see these out of town ads. They're all these things, but they're like some centralized 800 number, and maybe they have a local representative and maybe they don't. But I remember a shocking statistic that blew my mind. You said at the time, it's maybe more now, there's like 140 assisted livings?
There are 140 different licensed assisted livings here in Brevard County, Florida alone.
So if you're trying to figure out how you're going to work this for that loved one, what are you going to do? You're going to go look at all 140? How does that work?
Right. And that's where it kind of, you break it down. I always use the analogy when I'm talking to families. It's like walking into a Ben and Jerry's, never having eaten ice cream, and going up to the glass, and there's 140 different flavors, and you trying to define which one is for you.
And you have to do this like lickety split,
right,
because you didn't plan ahead.
And
right?
It's life and death.
Oh, I feel for you. Thank God there's people like you and like Kim and like JoAnne who care. You know, I mean, I've said it before, you guys are like really on the front lines and making that difference. But if people want to give you, and the thing is, what you do doesn't cost somebody out of their pocket to get that benefit of your expertise and advice. How do people get in touch with you again?
Well, you can reach us at our website. Our website is a wonderful resource of being able to do some homework and kind of look into it. We're not going to be calling you or kind of pillage you, nothing like that. It's one of those that you can look and do some homework there. But outside of that, and our website is www.sotercares, that's SOTER cares, CARES.com. Or you can call us here locally in Melbourne, 321-419-0041. Or if you're an 800 number person, it's 888-876-8371.
But even as you say that, I think the key thing that I want to point out is that you're local.
Yes.
You're local. And
born and bred
see
here.
One of the things that I know, Kim, you can speak to this too, right? We see how many people are moving to Florida, particularly through COVID. Now it seems like everybody is exiting someplace else and they want to be in Florida. So we love it. Welcome to Florida. But you know what? All these people, they have no idea who to call, who to trust. And so you want to deal with somebody locally who cares, right? Because I think that's even something that JoAnne pointed out, right, when we were talking earlier. She said, through COVID, I started to actually talk more with my neighbors than maybe I'd had the reason to before. And that was part of the process of getting successfully through that whole thing. And so if we can take advantage of people who are trusted local resources, I think that makes all the difference in the world. So one of the things I want to do, we have just a couple of minutes. So this is almost, I would call it in the housekeeping section of the program, but this is fun housekeeping, okay? So we're going to wind up the program with fun housekeeping. We're going to talk about some things that are going on with the Helping Seniors car raffle, because again, just so you know, as you're listening to the Helping Seniors radio program, we are a nonprofit. We don't do this unless you help us, okay? So people just assume somebody writes a big check to nonprofits and they can just go and go and go. Mm-hmm. It's not easy, folks. Joe has kept Joe built the whole Brevard Alzheimer's. They call them Joe's Clubs to this day because of the work that Joe did in putting all that together. And then, of course, 10 years ago, Joe, who can't stay retired, he starts up Helping Seniors because he goes, Kerry, there's more we have to do for seniors. Seniors, not the only problem that seniors face is memory related. We have lots of other things we have to confront. And so this organization was started to be an answer to getting information in the hands of people that would help them. So we can't do this without your help. So one of the ideas that Joe brought to the organization was something that he'd started back in Alzheimer's days to help fund all of that, was the Helping Seniors car raffle. So October 9th, 2021, at the American Muscle Car Museum, somebody is going to win their choice of a brand new 2021 Chevrolet Camaro, 2021 Dodge Challenger, 2021 Kia Sportage, or a 2021 Mazda Miata convertible. This is the 5th annual drawing. This is one of the major fundraisers. If somebody says, how can you help Helping Seniors? Buy some Helping Seniors raffle tickets. It's easy to do. You can go helpingseniors.carraffle.com. You can call Kim at the office, 321-473-7770. She'll get you set up with those. You can go by any of the Boniface Hires car dealerships. They'll get you with tickets. And most of the Helping Seniors partners have tickets. Like I know folks like elder law attorney Bill Johnson's got them in the office. Elder law attorney Ruth Rhodes has them in her office. Elder law attorney Amy Van Fossen has them in her office. So most of the really good friends of seniors in this county have Helping Seniors tickets. We'll be happy to get you set up. So which of the 4 cars, Troy Denault, if you win, would you take? I'm just curious. It's non-binding. You can change your mind when they hand you keys.
I'm taking that Challenger home.
Okay, so a vote for the Challenger. JoAnne, do you have a car that you like on that list? Okay.
The Camaro.
She's after the Camaro. So, one of the funny things that's happened along the way here is we have 2 teams. This started last year. It's going to be fun to continue this. We had Team Dodge, which was made up of a couple of ladies who just like, I'm all about the Challenger. And then a couple of ladies were all about the Chevy. And so we had a Team Dodge versus Team Chevy run out at the Muscle Car Museum on the grounds, and the tapes of that were hilarious. In fact, they're still on there. You can go see them. on the Helping Seniors website. And we're going to redo that in 2021. But you got to get involved and give Kim a call or go to helpingseniors.carraffle.com. Well, we're out of time for today's broadcast. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Troy Denault with Soter Living and Family Advocates, JoAnne Fletcher, who has kindly volunteered with all of this, and Kim Bernard, our education specialist. And so we'll see you next week for Helping Seniors Radio. Have a great week till then.